Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Alex, aka Comic Book 1962. Today I want to talk about what's going on in our industry and who are the people that are moving that industry and what makes up our industry. The reason I want to touch on that is because I do think that some people are getting hurt and they really need to reconsider how they collect. So let's first talk about the different types of collectors, comic book collectors. For initially, or I should say first, we have speculators. These are short lived attention span people driven by flipping for a quick buck. They're usually younger, some inexperienced with the overall market because they haven't been in it a long time, and many times flush with cash. These were the guys that were in Silicon Valley that were making a ton of money and they just wanted to come in and buy whatever. And they speculated on every type of comic book. But the problem with them is they're not really collectors. These are guys that are in it for the money. These are guys that don't read their comic books. These are guys that you ask what the comic books are, even the old Silver Age and the Golden Age, because I myself am not a modern day collector. So I can only talk about like Spider Man, Fantastic Four, Captain Marvel from the 50s and 70s. I mean, that's like the span. Timely, DC in the Golden Age, EC in the Atomic Age. Those are the kinds of people that go into these because there's some sort of trend going on. Now, outside of that, there's the hoarders. The hoarders are usually people that collect figures, cards, games, all comics from every company, DC or Marvel, or maybe all comics from one company. And they usually pass away with their collections. They're usually found to have died in some cases by relatives or actually happens in their family, and the family then discovers a gigantic collection, or they may have known it was there already. But these guys are not in it for the money. These guys won't sell their comic books. They want to keep them and they want to hold them. They as investors, they're in it for the long haul. They're focused on keys. They're focused, or I should say, investors are in it for the long haul. They're focused on keys. They dump on either high or low market conditions. Gold and silver age are in their crosshairs. Sometimes they do quick flips on speculating new modern age comics, but they're really not into the modern age. Investors are looking at this long term. They go into trends like gold, bonds, and stocks in the same fashion. They'll move from gold to bonds to stocks or buy a little bit of each. The comic books are just seen as another commodity that they can grab, increase the value of their of their money, and then eventually be able to uh, sell it. The problem with these collectors is you have to have a liquid market, and comic book market is not very liquid, unless you're talking about like a Superman #1, Marvel Comics #1. Those are always in demand. Other comics, it takes time, and you have to go on eBay. You have to post them. That's some of the stuff that I'm doing right now, and I'm doing it really because I'm more of a nostalgia collector. The nostalgia collector wants to accomplish what the dreams of his childhood were. For example, I remember when I was young, I would go into the comic book store, and there was one here in Miami called Abacus Coins and Stamps. The guy would have an entire wall full of long boxes. I mean, the biggest issue with that store was that he would write with a wax pen the price of the comics right on the cover, because at the time it really wasn't a collectible investor market. It was more the kids that came in that wanted to get the back issues, and largely Marvel. And the reason they wanted to get the old Marvel issues were because Marvel would mention old comic books in their new comic books as references. So they would say, go see Fantastic Four #6, or Namor first appeared in Fantastic Four 4, because they'd have a comic book story with Namor in it. So those kind of things caused us to go back and get the older comics. Deaths of superheroes were incredibly uncommon. I mean, incredibly. The Legion of Superhero had one death. That was Pharaoh Lad. Never came back. And that was sought after comics by kids my age because you wanted to see what it was like to read a story where a superhero actually died. There was another one when Captain Marvel passed away, and Captain Marvel still hasn't been brought back. So those kind of comics, yes, the nostalgia uh, people want, but also the kids in the era wanted them, and sometimes it would be on our reach. So now that we have more money, we can get back into them. But honestly, nostalgia collectors really usually collect runs, entire runs, versus just individual comics. Again, not all the time because, for example, I'm collecting Golden Age now, but I still collect Silver Age. This was one of my all-time favorite comic books when I was a kid. Annihilus' story was fantastic. Then when I was in my 20s, I saw Rocketeer come out. And the whole thing with Rocketeer was that it was nostalgic because of its style. So, we always liked the Rocketeer. And then you have the ones we actually grew up with. This is one example. This is a comic book that I bought off the rack. This is a comic book that I read entirely. Now, I also read the Annihilus story, but to be honest with you, I never read The Rocketeer. I only bought it because I thought the art and the style was very, very nice. I've never read any of my Golden Age because I don't want to ruin them. If I want to read Golden Age, I buy the compendiums. Like, for example, I have the Captain America compendium. And if I want to go into it, I can use that one and not worry about condition. So, nostalgia players, they're usually older and they're really moved by childhood memories. So, what is my advice? Here's the biggest problem that I see with the industry today. Okay, so what is the problem? I think the problem is with modern age comics. And I really think the problem is because in modern age comics, you have a situation where there's too many different covers that are coming out. Recently, I heard in one of the podcasts that I listened to, there was a comic book that came out and had 92 different variants. Why in the world would you make 92 variants? Only because you want to make money. That's what Marvel is doing. That's what DC, not as much, but Marvel is certainly doing it. And Image and some of the other ones. Then you have dealers that are making their own variants. Are we collecting stamps or are we collecting comics? Are we collecting covers or are we collecting comics? It seems like the modern age guys really don't read their books. They talk about reading their books, but the only ones that I think read their books are the dealers that get online and then talk about the books and why they're important and why you should buy them. So I would really stay away. I personally stay away from modern age comics. Doesn't mean that every single one of them. And here are some examples of the ones that I have picked up. Neil Gaiman's Sandman. Love the series. So when I saw it, you know what? I picked it up. I'll probably read it. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just try to flip it. Shazam. When the movie came out, I thought it'd be a good idea to bank on more Shazam comics. Not for today, but for maybe in 10 or 20 years. Black Adam. Same thing there. One of the variants from Black Adam. And one of the variants from Shazam. So, it's not like I say there's anything wrong with buying these. What I think is wrong is the idea that you're going to buy these and you're going to be making money off them. I invested in these books cover price. I didn't pay anything else than cover price. And I think that a lot of speculators are getting burned now because they're basically buying a comic book that came out yesterday for $35, $40. They send it in to get slabbed. It comes back a 9.8 like every other one. Why? Look, guys, if you ever see the words collector on an item, it is not a thing to speculate on. It is not a thing to invest in because every single person buying it will be putting it on a shelf, never touching it, and there will be a million 9.8s or a million perfect mint copies. So you're not going to get the same effect you get from Golden Age and even Silver Age. In the Golden Age, they burned comic books. They were considered to be bad for kids. So they actually would have book burnings in the schools and in the churches. That destroyed millions of comics. So, and then when you had Seduction of the Innocent, that even drove the the frenzy even higher. That's why EC is normally not in perfect condition. I know that the Gaines collection is in perfect condition, but he owned DC. When you go into the world and look at DC Comics, you normally find them well read. Because the guys that kept them were the guys that loved them. And they loved them because they read them. Not because of the cover, not because it was Jack Davis, not because it was Johnny Craig. It was because of the stories. And I can vouch for that because I found a book in my public library in the 70s called Horror Comics from the 50s that was made by Nostalgia Press. And that was an amazing book that contained only ECs. I fell in love with EC and I started trying to track down EC. So that's a completely different reason for buying EC. Only in the last 10, 12 years has EC really blown up. And luckily, I had been collecting it from before. So my advice, if you are buying moderns, don't slab them. There's really no need. You're going to be in competition with 10,000 people, and now your comic is going to cost you, if you pay $35 for the book, which I also don't recommend. If you can't get it for cover price, don't get it at all. But if you pay $35 and then you invest $40 in slabbing it between shipping and everything else, you're up to $75. You're going to get $75 when everyone else may be selling their raw copies in perfect mint condition for $10 because the price has crashed. It is all about, it's kind of like the news. In the news, you get a disaster and everyone focuses on it until the next disaster. Comic books are the same way. The latest modern book is the rave, right? The rage. The next modern book subdues that rage and everybody goes to the next one. So I really advise, one, buy at cover price or wait because you're going to get it at cover price in 4 or 5 months. I mean, think about it. Why would dealers ever sell their stock if they knew it was just going to go up and up and up? They might sell a few, but they would store a lot. And you know what dealers hate? When they're left with comics because they know those comics are going to be worthless or at the very least hard to move. So, will Golden Age, shifting focus a little bit, will the Golden Age and the Silver Age remain valuable? My answer is I think so. And the reason I say I think so is because with keys and like Superman #1, Batman #1, those are always going to be valuable because they're part of history. They're actually part of the entire dynamic that created the comic book and the superhero genre. Totally different than when you look at like modern keys. Modern keys are Miles Morales. He's probably the best modern key you could have, worth a lot of money. But Miles Morales is not Spider-Man #1 or Amazing Fantasies 15. No matter what you think of it, it isn't. There's so many out there and so many in great condition that it could never be Spider-Man #1 or Amazing Fantasies 15. So, I think that the trend of superheroes will always dominate the Golden Age. I know that we've seen trends right now of horror and then trends shift by artists. But look, if you think that artists are always going to be hot, I'll give you the example of Alex Raymond. Alex Raymond was a phenomenal artist. Alex Raymond was the artist for Flash Gordon, I think Agent X. There were a few, but Flash Gordon was his masterpiece. If you go back and you look at the Flash Gordon books from the 40s and from the 30s and 40s, you will find the artwork is spectacular. The stories are great also because it was based on fantasy, so they're timeless. But the art is mind-blowing. Ask anyone if they know who Alex Raymond is. I would tend to say that 9 out of 10 people have no idea. Have no idea at all. Don't even know that Flash Gordon was around that time. They think Flash Gordon may be something new. So, Golden Age will always be worth money, but I don't think because of the artist, even though right now there's a big craze. Like I love Alex Schomburg and I do get his comic books and I love Timely. But that could change. Once I pass and my generation passes, the next generation may not be the same. So you have to be careful because the next generation is going to focus on Silver Age. That's going to be their golden age. They're going to see that the Silver Age is the one that they remember wanting when they were kids and couldn't afford. The Golden Age is somewhat like the Platinum Age is for Golden Age collectors. There was a thing called the Platinum Age. Very few people collect it, and the prices are not high at all. So Golden Age may actually eventually come crashing down. I don't think it'll happen for the next 20 years, but after that, you may see a complete shift in it. And the other thing I'll tell you is everyone flocks to Silver Age. The Golden Age collector, the speculator, the investor, the hoarder, everyone flocks to Silver Age. So the idea that 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 market demand is so great that the idea that Silver Age will be affected is very, very low. I think Silver Age is here to stay for at least another 40 years. When I got into this, which was literally 50 years ago, guys, Golden Age was beyond our reach. Silver Age was coming out. Silver Age had come out a few years before and was also somewhat beyond our reach. But I'm talking about Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man number 5. I bought it for $35, and I thought that was a huge sum of money. Even if you make the inflationary, um, if you tack in inflation to see what it would be today, $35 might be $200, at most $350. Try to buy an amazing fantasies, an amazing Spider-Man number 5 for $350. Unless it's a rag, you're not going to get it. So, I just wanted to talk about this because I do think that a lot of people are getting hurt. And I think these people are getting hurt because they're rushing into something thinking that they're buying tomorrow's treasures. I really don't think that they're taking into consideration the volume of 9/8s that are out there. I really don't think that they're taking into consideration that the people buying them aren't reading them. So, how much of a nostalgia play will exist with people that never even read these comics? So, anyway, guys, I hope this was somewhat insightful. If you have any questions, please always reach out. I'm also on Instagram. I'm comicbook62 on Instagram. You can always reach me there. Again, thanks, and see you soon.